you doing? This is Coffee Break with Jimmy, and I want to talk a little bit about what happened at the cabinet meeting the other day with Trump. It was it was pretty entertaining. He was sit there. He had the cabinet meeting. All the secretaries, in his administration were there. Everybody was part of it. They had the media there, and the media was. They asked a lot of questions. They were real involved, and all the cabinet secretaries were all real involved. I thought it was a pretty good meeting, and Trump does this quite often. I don't know if it's once every 2 weeks or once a month, but he's done it several times since he's became president, the second time. And so they talked about a lot of things. Everything that, whenever something had to do with the interior or Homeland Security. Kristi Noem spoke quite a bit right there, and there were others that spoke quite a bit. So they're all involved in their parts of the cabinet. Then after it was all done, after he talked about everything, he started talking about the pictures on the walls and how he's redecorated that room there, the cabinet meeting room. And he had pictures. I think he had a picture of Dwight D. Eisenhower. He said, of course, there was George Washington. And I'll talk a little bit about him in a minute. Abraham Lincoln was also a picture he put on the wall, and Andrew Jackson. Trump really likes Andrew Jackson. I think that's his favorite president. But he also had Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and he goes, he's a Democrat, but it was a nice portrait of him, and he felt that it should have been in the cabinet room there. And but what he did was he put pictures that were in storage, I guess. There were pictures up on the wall and different things up on the wall, and they had, but they were different sizes. These pictures that he had there in the cabinet room, the picture frames were all the same size. The pictures were around the same size. They didn't look identical to one another, of course, but they were all the same size. I was getting ready for him to say, "Now, isn't this feng shui?" Now, I just heard of that term. My wife told me this term a couple of years ago about feng shui, how things just had to be just right, and whatever you do, whatever you're doing, there's it's called feng shui when everything is just right in the room or whatever you're doing. So I was waiting for Trump to say, "Well, this is feng shui," but he didn't say that. But then as he was going on talking about the different pictures, then Marco Rubio said, "Well, yeah, and the clock," and Trump says, "Oh yes, the grandfather clock here." That grandfather clock was in Marco's office, and I told Marco that I really like that clock. And Marco said, of course, he said, "Well, I like the clock. It's a nice clock." And Trump said, "Well, and he grabbed Marco by the shoulders, and he goes, "Marco, I told him I really want that clock. I wanted to put it in this room here, and to share with everybody. It wasn't just something he wanted in the Oval Office and to keep it separate from everybody else, take it out of Marco's office. He wanted to put it in the cabinet room there, the meeting room, and it was for everybody to share, and everybody to view it. And it was a really nice grandfather clock." But he started joking with Marco. Said, "Yeah, I told him, I'm the president, and by all rights, whatever the president wants, he wants certain things to dress up the White House. The president gets it." So Marco said, "Well, if you want the clock," and they all started laughing. And so anyhow, they showed pictures of the clock, so he got the clock. But that was another thing I was talking about, like I was talking about the last couple of podcasts, how President Trump is real, he's normal, okay? I mean, they call him the blue-collar billionaire, and there's a lot of different euphemisms to use for him. But he's just a regular guy. It's kind of a guy that, if he drank beer, and he doesn't, but if he drank beer, you could have a beer with him. I mean, he'd be that kind of a guy. And, but that's what makes it so real. And then he doesn't stop, and he gives everybody their praise. When they did, like in the cabinet room in the meeting, he praised everyone that was in there, and they're doing a good job, and all the different secretaries, how good of a job they were doing. He was going on about that, and then he was talking about different things he was going to do, some more remodeling. He didn't want to put gold in up on the ceiling. There's some wood up there. He said, "Well, I could put gold, but that's just a little too much gold. But you can't really replace gold with painting something gold. But I guess some of them had didn't mention some gold leaf and put it on there or something. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but it was conversation. It was like you're in a backyard conversation with your friends. It's not real studious, although it is, but it's just real. He's just a real kind of guy, and he's real personal with everybody, and that just goes to show you, because this guy, and we've said it before. He said it before. He could be doing anything he wants right now. I mean, he could be living life in the lap of luxury, doing whatever he wants to do, but he really feels like he needs to do something for this country, because he loves this country and he loves the people in this country, and he feels like this is what he needs to do. So that's why he's doing this job. That's why he ran for president again. And I think I said last time I was being a little bit selfish, wanting him to run for a third term, because I think he would win. But this is going to go on to his life. If say he was to run again, I think he'd be 82 years old, I guess, when he'd be president for another term, and then that would go on to 86. Although there are a lot of sharp guys out there that are in their 80s and 90s, and they're just as sharp. It's not like they're Joe Biden. That's another thing we want to talk about, because they're talking a lot about Joe Biden and the auto pen. People using who was running the White House when Joe Biden was in the White House? Was it his wife? Was it Jill? Was it the Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State? Could have been anybody. I mean, could have been Kamala. I don't think so, but because she could put two cents together unless it was a word salad that she had put together once before, and she used it again. Kamala Harris is about an empty vessel, if you ask me. So nobody really knows that, but they put a lot of time onto that. They had his doctor testifying before Congress, and of course he used the Fifth Amendment. I apply this, was the Fifth Amendment on that question. That's I have the right for the Fifth Amendment and to keep the privacy of the doctor-patient privacy, and I get that there is that. But for him just to claim the First Amendment on everything, it's just to say it goes to show you that maybe there is something that they're trying to hide. But I don't know. But so that they keep talking about that. Now they're talking about Epstein again, and because Peter Doocy said in a hearing in a White House press hearing one day. He said something about the Epstein files were on Pam Bondi. She was, I got the file. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, says she had the files on her desk ready to review. I don't remember her saying that she had a number of different files, but she had files. I guess she was alluding to separate files, and so she did mention that at this cabinet meeting that she wanted to speak about that, and that she did have Epstein's files, but she also had files for from the assassinations from JFK and Martin Luther King and so on. So she was still having to review all those, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the first 6 months, and that was a lot of things that they talked about. They talked about, of course, the bombing in Iran. They're talking about the ceasefire between Iran and Israel, and they're talking about Bibi Netanyahu. I guess he was at the White House today, or was it yesterday? No, maybe it was yesterday. He was at the White House and visiting over there. So, I mean, there's just so much stuff going on right now. It's kind of hard to keep up with it, but it's kind of exciting because we've never had this from any president. Much less saying, "This is what I'm going to do," and then do it. But just anything that happens to come along that happens to take his attention, he will give it the attention and get it done and get the ball rolling, and whatever it may be, whoever might be in charge, whatever secretary might be in charge of this particular thing, Trump will get it rolling. And it seems like it's so smooth, a lot smoother than it was last time, even though last time I thought it was pretty smooth in his other administration. Of course, there were some that shouldn't have been there from the beginning, but he's figured out how to be not just a businessman, but he's figured out how to be a politician of sorts, I guess. But anyway, the other day, I'd heard this, and I heard this on another podcast, so I'll give him kudos for him saying this. But Sylvester Stallone, which I just found out here recently, maybe last year or so, that he's actually conservative, and he's on the Trump bandwagon big time. Sylvester Stallone is. But he said, I don't know that George Washington realized, the very first president, that everybody liked him, everybody wanted him because he was General George Washington. They needed him as a leader. And so that's how he got the presidency, because everybody wanted him there. But he didn't realize, Sylvester Stallone said he didn't realize just what he was about to embark upon, to create this new country and where it was going to go, the Declaration of Independence, then all the laws created for this country for the people and by the people, the Constitution, all this stuff. He didn't realize how much this was going to affect the world as it is today, and as it has been ever since the inception of the United States. But he goes, this is the second coming of George Washington, Donald J. Trump. President Trump is the second coming, the second coming of George Washington. I never really looked at it that way, but Sylvester Stallone said this. When he said that, it just made a lot of sense to me. And I think he's right. And I think it's going to even be greater than what most people think. And if people would just give Trump a chance and just say, look, everything that he's doing, like this Crockett, I don't know who the hell this is. Who is this Crockett? Okay, she's a congressman from Texas, and she just this woman's so far out. Well, of course she's a lefty. She's so far out in left field. It's just unbelievable. You just can't. This woman it doesn't make any sense. She's kind of like AOC. None of them make any sense. Just like this new zone was. I don't quote me because I don't know his name. The guy running for mayor in New York City. He's a socialist. I mean, come on, socialists, communists, they all go hand in hand together. And so a lot of people on the left hand side, they don't really understand. And I believe it's happening here in California more than any other state. I think that people here in California are finally getting tired of this Democrat-run state that really have no. I mean, if you got, I've said it before, if you got 4 people running for the governor, and they got a primary, and 2 of them are Republican and 2 of them are Democrat, and the Democrats get the majority of the vote, well, then they get to run against one another for the governor. It's not one Republican and one Democrat, one party and or the other, vying for that position, for a governor, or any other office here in the state of California. It's run that way. And how that came about and how the Democrats got this going, I know how they did it, but it's just kind of a look over a period of time. But I think that's going to come back around because people are finally waking up. They're looking to see what Gavin Newsom's doing, and he's not getting it done. Oh, he went to South Carolina, I guess, to go over there and meet with some Democrats in South Carolina because he's planning on running for president. Hey, guys, look out for this guy. Look at what he's done in California. This guy is just, he hasn't been a good governor for the state of California, and we don't want him to Californiaize the United States, because here we have the 5th, I don't know, someone said the 4th largest economy, but they say anywhere from the 4th to the 6th largest economy in the world here in the state of California, and it's not being run properly. So we don't want Gavin Newsom. But anyway, so all this stuff, this is Trump. He's so real. And he loves this country. He loves the people of this country. And I don't know what this whole Epstein thing's about. Pam Bondi brought that up. I have that here, but I also have other lists to look at. Whether it be a list of who came to Epstein Island, or I don't know. But she has different paperwork to review on the assassinations and of that, and she claimed that it was, in fact, a suicide. But that still remains to be seen, because I don't know for sure myself. But think about it. I mean, there's just so many things. And Donald Trump, just that one thing that Sylvester Stallone said, the second coming of George Washington. That sounds about right. It does. And Sylvester Stallone said this, so that's not me saying this. Is Sylvester saying this. And I'm glad. I didn't realize, till here a while back, that he was actually, a conservative. But there are some actors. John Voight, Clint Eastwood, of course. He's conservative. There's a lot of people in the acting business, in the show business echelon, I guess. Or anyway, there's a lot of them that are actually coming out and saying that they are in fact conservative. There are some of them that are actually eating crow, like, well, let's talk about. They were so hard. I mean, just like Julia Roberts, she just came out for Joe Biden, and they now they're finding out, because you don't hear much of that anymore. You don't hear much of that because they found out that Joe Biden really wasn't what he was, and nobody really knows what he was, and we're going to find that out. I know his doctor claimed the Fifth Amendment, and so he didn't testify in front of Congress, and so, but that's doctor-patient privilege. I get that, but there's some stuff that need to be brought out, like this auto pen. I guess this auto pen has been going on for some time. I guess they used it back as far back as Clinton, that I know of, Clinton, and even Bush, I think, or Reagan might have used the auto pen at times. So it's not something that's brand new. But in Joe Biden's case, I think, and that's what they're trying to get to the bottom of, to find out if there are people that are actually using the auto pen, signing Joe Biden's name without him even knowing about it. Okay, if you're going to be not here, and there's some bill that has to be signed, something has to be signed by the president, they can use the auto pen if the president gives them the okay to do that. So, I mean, with all these signatures that here right toward the end, that supposedly Joe Biden, had all that let all these people out of jail, constantly. What was it? What do they call that? When you get rid of their, you give them a pardon. He had all these pardons, was 240 or something, or 40 pardons. It was a lot of pardons. Did he sign those, or was this all the auto pen? And I guess that's what they're trying to figure out. So there's just a lot of stuff going on. Every day there's something new. Every day there's something different. And I really think that when it gets right down to it, gets toward the end of Trump's presidency, or maybe in the middle of it, I think we're going to see something about the Fed. And Powell is supposed to drop the interest rates. Trump keeps telling me he needs to drop the interest rates. Powell doesn't have very much longer as the chairman. So, but we'll see what happens with the Fed. We'll see what happens with a lot of, all these federal taxes that have come about. Trump's talked about so many times, like President McKinley. President McKinley was a tariff president, is the way Trump puts it. He was a tariff president. And that's what our country ran on, was tariffs and trade with other countries. And the money we got, this taxes, this percentage we got from other countries, whatever they charged us, we charged them, so on and so forth. But that's how we made our money. We didn't have to have federal income tax. So there's you hear some of that going around, there's a little bit of scuttlebutt. We might be getting rid of the federal income tax, get rid of the Fed, and the Fed has nothing to do with federal income tax, but just getting rid of the Fed, and different things that are going to go. So we'll see. But there's so many, and there's no telling. There's really no telling with President Trump. It's just exciting. Every day there's something new. So I'm hoping to do another podcast tomorrow and talk about maybe just come on the heels of this, talk about this. Maybe there would be something to happen tomorrow. Oh, and one more thing. One more thing. It's not Donald Trump's fault when things happen. I mean, this was a terrible disaster, what happened in Texas. And now I guess there was a flood in New Mexico also. It was another disaster. Whenever you lose loss of life, I mean, you can't talk about anything else. Why it happened, who caused it to happen. But now they're trying to blame President Trump for this. Isn't that so ridiculous? I mean, it's just so ridiculous. This is a natural disaster. Now, I guess President Trump's going over there tomorrow. He's going to go see the flood zone tomorrow. He's going to be in Texas tomorrow. And I can't wait to see what happens there. Probably talk about a little bit of that tomorrow, too. But it's not his fault. You know, of course, there are some people that are saying, well, they had the rainmaker where they spray the clouds with different stuff to create rain, and I don't think it's going to create that much rain. But that's what they're trying to say. They're trying to say this is the administration that did this, and that's another conspiracy theory, if you ask me. A lot of it's conspiracy theory. We're going to see what happens. But this was just a natural disaster, and I pray for those. I mean, for those families. I mean, come on, just the loss of their children, and then some of them some adults that lost their lives also. But the children, losing the children that's out there camping, having a great time, all of a sudden just come to that abrupt end. That's just unfathomable. It's just hard to understand, and it really breaks your heart. So my prayers and condolences go out to all those families. So, but Trump's going to be there tomorrow. We'll see what happens. I'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. So enough for now. This was Coffee Break with Jimmy. Like I said, soon to be the Jimmy Souza Show, because I am a patriot. As you can see, my flag behind me, the Marine Corps Memorial and Iwo Jima Memorial, and because I am a Marine, and my last name is Sousa. So we'll see you next time on Coffee Break with Jimmy. Thank you very much. Oh, please subscribe. Hit the alarm bell, the notification bell, and share, and press the like button. Okay? Thank you.